All right. Hello, community. I'm Dr. Shemya Vaughn, and I am the creator of A Cup of Therapy. On this channel, I am talking to women of color and trans women of color who live with anxiety, who live with depression, and we're all recovering from childhood trauma. So, on this channel and in my coaching practice and in my therapy practice, I help women improve their mental health. I help them accomplish their personal goals, and I help them heal in community. So, this YouTube channel does not constitute a therapy client relationship. It does not constitute a coaching client relationship either. I am a licensed therapist in California and Missouri. So women who live in those two states, they usually contact me for a free consultation to see if we are a good fit for traditional therapy. So this week we're going to be talking about avoidance, avoiding people, places, and things. Yes. So I did not come here, right, to beat you up and judge you for procrastination. I came here today to help you understand why you are avoiding certain people. They're not pleasant to you. Why you are avoiding certain places, probably a negative experience you do not want to repeat. And why you avoid specific things, confrontation, loading the dishwasher, cart maintenance, right? That's avoidance. So you may be avoiding these people, places, and things for several reasons. Here are my theories. One theory. These are experiences that do not excite you, they don't bring you joy, or or they actively cause you emotional harm. That's how serious avoidance is. It's trying to tell you something. So examples are avoiding people who are bullies, avoiding places where you have experienced violence, and avoiding things that are uncomfortable, right? This is all part of the avoidant behavior. My second theory, these experiences are no longer part of the plan you have for your life, right? So sometimes it wasn't a traumatic experience that you're why you're avoiding things. So some examples are people, relationships you've just outgrown, right? Places that no longer provide you with what you need. You used to go to this one particular place because it helped you get centered, but then maybe management change or the location change is just not the same anymore. Things that cause bad stress when you are trying to lower your stress levels, you avoid them. Okay, so that's my second theory. My third theory, though, is you are avoiding or engaging in procrastination because you lack the emotional capacity or motivation to handle what needs to be done, right? You avoid a person, for example, that you need to have an uncomfortable conversation with. Maybe they said or did something hurtful, and you need to establish a boundary with them, or you need to address this conflict directly. You avoid a place because it sends a negative message that you don't have the energy to fight against. Maybe you joined a gym to lose weight, but because the scale has not moved, or maybe it increased the number of pounds you weigh, or maybe the pounds are coming off too slowly, you fear exercise is not helping you achieve your goal. So you start avoiding going to the gym. You procrastinate on completing a project you started 6 months ago because you don't have the energy to engage with it after working full time and then crawling through depressive episodes. So, unlike Nike's advice about, just do it, right? That is not what's needed here. If you are avoiding something, truly avoiding, procrastinating, you need to reflect on why you avoid and why you procrastinate. You need to reassess how important these people, places, and things are to your life, one at a time. You don't want to overwhelm yourself. So write a list of what you are actively avoiding and spend some quiet time honestly answering the question, why. Once you know why, you can decide what to do about it. Schedule some time to deal with it, abandon the project, end the friendship, end the relationship, release what is no longer adding to your life. Sprinkle some self-compassion in there and forgive yourself for waiting so long to take action. Right? That's me being gentle with you and about the avoiding. Avoiding is such a bigger issue than you think it is. So now I want to check in with you. Okay, so what's going to be your priority for this week? Right? Every Sunday we get together, I talk about an issue, and then we check in with you because this is for people that don't get checked in on. So, what is going to be your priority for this week, upcoming week? What is important to you? I want to create a safe space where people feel comfortable typing responses in the chat box, or even if it's anonymous, right? The question is not about prioritizing a person, right? So if you are a parent, your child and children are your priority. We already, right? That's every week. That's your life. If you are in a relationship, the person that you love and who loves you is a priority every week. No, this question is about choosing you this week. The question is for you. What do you want or what do you need to focus on? It could be as simple as making time to color, right? Or scheduling a dental appointment for yourself, or promising yourself to go to bed on time, right? We all know what time we should go to bed each night so that we have a restful sleep and wake up refreshed. Perhaps that is your priority. Think of a part of you that you have been neglecting and make that a priority for you this upcoming week. Okay. So the second question, who or what drained your energy last week? Going back to the previous response about neglecting yourself and making you a priority, choosing you means not choosing those energy drains this week. Who or what exhausted you last week? You can't remember? I'll remind you. I'll remind you. If it was a who, you spent time with this person and afterward you were so tired and sleepy. You needed to take the rest of the day off to sleep, or you felt too tired to engage in anything else, right? Those dementors need not be a regular part of your life. You have control over who is taking up space in your day. Unless it is a manager, supervisor, or coworker, then you're in trouble, right? Drop their role here in the chat anonymously, so we can send them negative vibes as a way to protect you from their energy, their negative energy moving forward. No, no, seriously, I was laughing, but I'm very serious. We need protection from some people, some places, and some things. They mean us harm. Don't get it twisted. Don't be fooled. They do not want you to prosper. We'll send them negative vibes. We just need their role, right? We need to put the energy out there. Okay. Next question. Who or what made you feel complete or whole last week? Feeling complete or whole is for those of us who have reached the tail end of our healing journey and we have learned to thrive despite all the shit life throws at us. We have learned how to benefit from post-traumatic growth experiences, right? We are not just settling for healing. No, we want to feel whole. We want to feel complete. So last week, who made you feel complete? Who made you feel whole? Or maybe it was a what, right? What made you feel complete? What made you feel whole? Sometimes getting positive medical news makes me feel whole. When you have a medical condition and have to do ongoing tests to determine if the treatment is working or if the problem is still there, the positive results can cause some very good feelings and emotions like, yay, I'm getting better. I always celebrate positive test results or negative test results, depending on the medical issue, right? Positive, negative always means something different in medical news. So Do you celebrate good news? How do you celebrate it? Right? So if someone or something made you feel whole and complete, not only name it, but how did you celebrate that? Okay. Question 4. Who or what did you avoid last week? It is time to get honest and say, I don't want to, right? This is authenticity. This is honesty. Are you avoiding something or procrastinating on something you don't want to do? So, depending on who you're talking about, who you're talking to, what the task you're avoiding is, you may still need to do it because you are an adult. But it feels good to admit that you are avoiding something because you do not want to do it. Be honest with yourself and with the person nagging you about the thing, right? And so it's when you say, I don't want to, that doesn't mean you don't have to do it. Like there are some adult things we don't want to do that we still have to do, and it involves other people. Do the thing. But it feels good to admit I'm not procrastinating because I can't do it or I forgot. It's because I don't want to. And so I'm putting it off as long as I possibly can. This doesn't feel good though, right? People start calling you flaky or lazy or undependable, all those words, right? The words are never positive. They never say, oh, you don't want to do the thing that you agreed to do 3 weeks ago? How freeing this must feel. No, no, they are disappointed in you. But this is okay. This is okay. They have a right to feel whatever negative feelings they want to feel about you because you let them down. Sit with this if this is your experience. Don't try to avoid it. Not this week. Example. I'll give you an example from my own life, right? So if I promise a client I will write a letter so that they can move into a new apartment with their emotional support animal, but I procrastinate on the letter and now their landlord is charging them pet rent, of course they would be mad at me, right? I let them down. I cost them money. This is only an example. I am the type of therapist that schedules time for writing letters, calling doctors, etc., as soon as the promise is made. I mean what I say and I say what I mean. It is part of case management, actually, in my field. So I just do it and I provide the date they can expect the product, a letter or results from a phone call, right? So I'll put it like in an email or something. But I do this to avoid procrastinating on something that will negatively impact someone else. The lesson I learned, however, was not to agree to do something I do not want to do in the first place so that I do not procrastinate on it later. Right? I have another example. Here we go. As a professor, that was my second career, right? Right. Students often ask for letters of recommendation. So if you've ever been an undergrad or a grad school or a PhD program, you know how common it is for students to ask their professor for letters of recommendation. If I could not write a strong letter of recommendation, I would say so. Please ask someone else who has experienced you differently. I would say it. Um, Either to their face if they came to the office and asked, or if they asked via email, right? And just kind of attached some kind of thing that they're applying for. If I just agreed to write a letter, but I did not have a positive experience with the student, I know me. I would procrastinate until past the deadline. Save everyone the heartache and stop agreeing to things you do not want to do. This requires you to know yourself pretty well and be honest with yourself about what you will and what you won't do, right? This is opposite of if you live in a house with roommates or a husband or a wife or whatever, right? And you need to pull your weight. You don't have the option of not doing shit. Like you need to help out. So these are things that are not required of you. These are favors, right? These are favors that I'm talking about when we talk about avoiding or procrastinating. Stop saying yes if you don't really want to do it. Stop saying yes if you don't want to go to the party. Stop saying yes if you don't want to babysit someone's kids, right? Stop saying yes to things that are elective. Even if you don't have any other plans or nothing else to do, that doesn't mean you owe them your free time. I hate, and I've learned this, I hate when I accidentally mention that I'm off work or I'm not working. And people assume that time is now theirs to claim. No, I took the day off. I took the day off to rest, not to be at your service. Anyway, so I'm just asking you to be honest with yourself and say no when you mean no. Okay, question 5. What boundary did you establish that you want to start enforcing this week? Right? So we talked about the definition of boundaries last week. And I'm wondering what boundary you established that you want to start enforcing this upcoming week. I am assuming some shit went down last week, right? And you were like, oh God, never again. Right? So what boundary did you create for yourself? Remember, that's who they're for, that you need to enforce this week. This is about you reining yourself in, right? You're not going to be ruling over someone else's life. So, as a therapist, I'll give you an example. As a therapist, I am not a morning person. Thus, early morning appointments are not going to go well with me. I have already tried waking up super early to provide early morning appointments, mostly to teachers. That's who usually requests it. But I was always sleepy during the session and or pissed off if they pulled a no-show on me or showed up late, right? Really late. Um, so not waking up and the person forgot. Like here I am waking up early and the person just forgot. They've moved on to something else. Like what the I realized that this was not a them problem. This was not the client's problem. I created a boundary for myself, which are my current office hours. Problem solved, right? So when a teacher, it is usually a teacher, like I said, asks for an early morning appointment, I explain these are the time slots available, and morning is not one of them. So this means the person can schedule an appointment with another time, or they can find a therapist who has early mornings available. It's a win-win. I want to encourage you to do the same thing with some boundaries, right? When you do something and you're like, oh gosh, I'm neglecting myself, create a boundary for yourself so that you don't keep doing that. All right, question 6. Who gave you emotional or financial support last week? Emotional support is different from financial support, right? We know this, right? So emotional support is you asking the person if they have the capacity to handle your negative news or your positive news. You wait for a response, then you proceed to rely on them for support. We cannot call someone out of the blue and expect them to drop what they're doing or what they're feeling and center us. This is unfair. We need to give people some warning, right? We need consent in all of our relationships, not just the sexual ones. So, this allows people in your support system to tell you if they can listen or celebrate with you, or they'll tell you when they can make time for you, right? Because they still care about you. They just might be in a bad space at that moment. This way, both of you are in the correct emotional space to engage in a meaningful conversation. So I ask again, who made space for you last week and provided emotional support? Financial support is different, right? It's a whole different animal. You are likely going to ask someone to support you financially and then accept the yes or the no. Please do not make the error of assuming people have the financial resources to help you, or just because they have financial resources, they should help you, right? We need to respect how people donate money they have earned or inherited, right? So I don't want you to use that excuse, oh, they didn't even, that's not even money they had to earn. Someone gave it to them. That doesn't make it yours. It is their money, and they are not obligated to share it with anyone. Did you need financial support last week? And if so, who was kind enough to help? That's what we want to remember. That when people help us financially, they're being kind, they're being generous, right? They don't have to do it. Okay, question 7. Who did you support emotionally or financially last week? It is sometimes our turn to be the reliable person. Most of the people watching this channel are probably elder daughters or the responsible one in their sibling group. the case manager of their family or their friends. So I think this question is not about making sure you are helping others. I think this question is about you helping I think the question is to help you question, right? Help you question who you are supporting and if it should continue. So if you had a rough week and put your emotions aside to be there for someone else emotionally, beloved, beloved, you took care of yourself afterward, or who took care of you afterward, right? So when we neglect our own needs because someone else needs us, we still need to circle back and make sure we are good. We do not want to give from a place of lack because we will start resenting the very people we love and want to help. I promise you, resentment grows quickly when we neglect ourselves. If you are generous with your money, right, make sure that giving financial support does not put you in a bind. I'm speaking from lived experience, right? So giving someone money that you need back by this date probably means you did not have it to spare. It is okay to have $200 or $2,000, right? That is earmarked for something important. Then a relative or a friend calls and asks for $100. You have way more than that, right? Please say no. And hear me out. The amount you have is for something specific. Honor your own financial needs first. Offer them an alternative or allow natural consequences to help them make different financial choices with their own money, right? This is not about tough love. I do want to be clear about that. This is about making sure when you need your own money to make a choice, you are not short $100 because you were trying to help someone else. That is not help. It is self-sacrificing and it can damage relationships. Okay, so last question. What new habit do you need to start practicing this week? Or what old habit are you ready to retire this week? So let's talk about new habits first. Is there something you have been wanting to try or you have been doing it but inconsistently? This is the week to give it a consistent go. That's what I'll call it. We develop new habits by doing them on a regular basis. We do things on a regular basis by pairing them with another daily habit or weekly habit. I learned this is called habit stacking from that guy that wrote the Atomic Habits book. That book was a game changer, by the way. So you can go get it at the library or bookstore, but someone is reading it on YouTube for free, right? So if you Google Atomic Habits, like audio or something like that, someone has the whole damn book on YouTube for free. I'm sure that didn't make the author happy, but that is, I'm just letting you know it's out there. I didn't do it, but someone did. So this whole new habit thing and the habit stacking, I have a perfect example of it, right? That it works. So my dentist kept getting in my ass about flossing. I don't know what your relationship is with flossing, but it was irritating. It was a habit that I couldn't keep going with, right? I kept promising to do it, but I would only do it when I saw the dental appointment on my calendar, and then I would do it a couple weeks after that. But it's twice a year, so it didn't stick. It didn't stick. I would forget about it. I would become too busy, and I just deserted the whole necessary healthy habit of flossing. Very necessary. So during one visit, the dental assistant, not the dentist, the dental assistant overheard the nagging from the dentist, a reminding of the dentist, and gave me a tip. She said, "How long is your commute?" I told her, whatever it was at that time. I changed jobs a lot. She said, "Floss in traffic on the way to work." I was like, "What?" She was like, "Well, before you leave the house, you've already brushed your teeth, right?" She was like, "So now you're just going to work. You're sitting in traffic anyway." She said she did that. She flosses in her car in traffic, and it was helpful because she had already brushed her teeth and the flossing was the next step, right? It worked well. I started keeping floss in my car, right? In a place to discard it because it's kind of gross. But I started using those floss picks instead of the string because it was just easier when you're to do with one hand while you're driving. Um, but now that I'm a walker and not a driver, right? So if I'm walking to work or driving, well, actually, I'm a remote worker. So I don't walk or drive anywhere. But right before this, I was working in a building, if you will. And so I was walking to work every day. It's like, how am I going to floss now? So when I got the job and I was walking to work, I moved my flossing to before the toothbrushing habit stack, right? And it still works. So now the flossing has become such a part of the toothbrushing experience. I do it right before the toothbrushing. It doesn't seem like a chore anymore, right? So I do it every day or sometimes twice a day, depending on how I work. So now we can go on to talk about the old habits you are ready to retire. Sometimes we pick up a bad habit due to stress. We do. We don't like something in our lives, and so we try to find a treat or a way to make ourselves feel better. A lot of people, for example, wash the day of work off, right? Wash the work day off with a beer or a glass of wine. I mean, some people have elevated it to a bottle of wine and a six pack, but most people start with a beer, having a beer with friends after work or at home after work or a glass of wine. I am not schooled in the ingredients of beer or wine to know if this is healthy or not. And that's not the point, right? It's not the point of the conversation. The point is, if you do not like relying on substances to cope with work stress, perhaps it is time to retire the drinking or the smoking weed habit after work, right? So some people drink, some people just get high after work, all of those things. This is not easy to stop for most people who drink or smoke every day. It's a habit. But if we learned it, we can unlearn it, right? We probably need to ask for support here and not try to do this by ourselves. And definitely don't try to do a cold turkey, right? You do not have to abstain or have a dry month or see an addiction specialist. I am giving an example of how we develop a habit related to stress and how we can abandon that habit if we want to get rid of it, right? But we do have to ask for support. Practicing a new habit or retiring an old habit may require you to ask for support or just ask for support anyway, right? So that you're not feeling so alone in that. Okay, take a deep breath. Forget the drinking and the smoking weed. What about you? What new habit will you try this week? Or which old habit are you ready to retire, to release? Right? So think about it, and I'll see you next week.